Authentic Health Coaching Show. My name is Tom Corson-Knowles, founder of Authentic Health Coaching. We want to welcome you to the show today. We have an amazing free gift for you with Dr. Corson's Top 5 Nutrition Tips. It is the #1 guide to taking your health to the next level, and you can get your free copy at AuthenticHealthCoach.com. Now today on the show we have an amazing guest for you, Dr. Peter Zafirides. And Dr. Peter is the president of Thriving Behavioral Health Practice in Columbus, Ohio. He's also the clinical assistant professor at Ohio State University's Department of Psychiatry, and he's a staff psychiatrist as well with another community mental health center. And he has received the award for Best Doctors in America the last 7 years in a row, and he's been recognized nationally with the Patient's Choice Award in 2008, 2010, and 2011, as well as the Compassionate Doctor Award in 2010. So he's just an acclaimed physician and is really esteemed in his field, and he's an expert on psychology and especially the link between emotional illness and health and chronic pain. And that's exactly what we're just talking about today on the show, is the link between chronic pain and your emotions. And he has some very powerful tools and techniques that really anyone can use to get rid of chronic pain or make it better, improve it dramatically, just by changing your emotions and changing how you understand yourself. And he shares some powerful tips in this show today, so take great notes and enjoy it. Peter, thanks so much for being with us today on the Authentic Health Coaching Show. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and what got you interested in emotions and psychology and chronic pain?
Well, great. Thank you, Tom. It's great to be on your podcast. My name's Peter Zafirides. I'm a psychiatrist out of Columbus, Ohio, and I did my residency here at Ohio State University. And at that time, I had gotten connected with a few individuals that were doing chronic pain, but from a much different level than traditional chronic pain treatment. And they were looking at particularly the emotional aspects of chronic pain. Not so much in terms of the fact that we're in pain and emotions affect us, but that what role do the emotions have possibly in causing the pain per se or creating the pain. And from there, it was just a really phenomenal adventure for me ever since. But I'm in private practice and also do community mental health a couple days a week as well. But within my private practice, I see quite a few chronic pain patients. And what we try and look at there, beyond the fact that there are diagnosable reasons for pain, but if you really tease out the reality, particularly of chronic pain, oftentimes anatomy is not necessarily the reason as to why people are hurting. So some of the techniques that we've developed and others within this field of study can really help people in a way that maybe traditional medicine has left them to suffer. So that's been a mission of mine. I also do general psychiatry, but that's really where I find myself very attracted with regards to the physical and the emotional. So from that mind-body connection has always spoken to me over the years, both in what I read and also in my clinical practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. Well, you talked about how emotions can cause this chronic pain. Where does that come from, and how does that work?
Sure. Well, I always give the example, if we were sitting together and for some reason I embarrassed you right now, what would happen? You would flush red in a second. You didn't move a muscle. I didn't come after you or anything, but due to your emotions, a whole biological process happened where your face went red. So we can use a very vivid example to show how emotions can affect our physiology, our biology. Other examples are when you're feeling nervous, your stomach hurts, or you start to feel nauseous, or you may get a headache. So we know that there's this interplay between the emotions and the physical. And as I went through my study and then into practice with this particular area, what we find is oftentimes the source of a lot of the physical comes from anger, from rage. And it isn't so much rage or anger that we're totally aware of, but rage that gets suppressed. And as I always tell those that I speak to and also my patients, you don't get a pass just because you've kind of pushed it down. And the body and the mind will keep account, if you will. And at times, when that rage or anger kind of almost comes to the surface where we feel like we're going to lose it, it's almost a protective type of mechanism that a physical reaction will occur, and boom, ouch, my neck hurts, or oh, my back hurts. And what we've tried to do in therapy and the behavioral techniques that we have used in our practice is to have people feel comfortable with that particular idea and that particular process. It's not kind of a neurotic way of dealing with it. The body is doing what it needs to protect itself. It's almost as if the body is saying, it is better for me to have physical pain than take a chance of what this emotional pain will be. And it's amazing how often people will feel better once they allow for the possibility that that can possibly be a reason for their pain.
So what you're saying is just by realizing that your chronic pain could be caused by emotions like anger, that alone can kind of help you improve and get rid of that pain?
Well, that can happen for some individuals, and there are books out there and a group of us that study this and are contributing to the field. And oftentimes I will get book cures, quite frankly, where someone has read a book or a series of articles and they feel much better. So the awareness is there. But for some individuals, it will continue. And for those individuals, sometimes therapy is needed. Because what we're talking about isn't necessarily the obvious, oh, I'm behind on the bills. Oh, how am I going to make rent or my mortgage payment? But deeper issues. And it's very interesting, if you do this long enough like I have, a very consistent picture starts to develop of the person who may be more primed for that particular type of chronic pain. And you tend to see someone who is very dedicated, very perfectionistic. Maybe as a child was the good kid, was trying to always please. As they get older, they continue to work very, very hard to achieve what they do, and they achieve great success. These aren't characteristics that one should be ashamed of. But the underlying psychology of that is I make a choice, either to be and live and kind of let that kid within me come out, or I have to put that away because I have to please somebody, or I have to go do this work because I want to be successful and what have you. And this builds over time. And it's gotten to the point now where if a person comes in, even if they're not coming to see me for pain, if they bring up a very common psychological profile, I'll ask them straight out, tell me a little bit about your back pain. And they'll ask me, well, how did you know that I had back pain? So it's really a lot, and this is where, when we talk about the decade of pain and the science of pain, it really is the more we learn, the less we know, because if you follow it deeper and deeper, you can see that a lot of what we thought was true about pain really isn't true at all.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So is anger the only emotion that really causes this kind of chronic pain, or is there other emotions as well?
Oh, sure. A lot of emotions. Anger tends to be the primary one, and I don't want it to necessarily feel like, well, what am I really rageful for or angry about? It's more just any kind of suppressed emotion that was suppressed, if you will. It might have been something very, very positive, but yet because of a duty or an obligation or a personality style, people just feel like they're stuck. So they go with what they know. And again, it serves them well. They succeed. But it can cause problems. Now, it can be physical pain, but sometimes it can come out as anxiety or as depression. But if we start to understand that, and really what I try to get across to those individuals who come to see me is, I don't want you to see this as a fault. Your body is doing this almost in essence to survive, rather than it's kind of neurotically causing pain over here as a weakness. You can look at someone in the extreme, say a multiple personality disordered individual, and oftentimes they've gone through horrid trauma, and they've got a separate personality that might come out or not at times. But what that means is, due to a very bad trauma and emotion, they've sequestered away a certain personality, right, as a way of dealing with it. And not that I want to equate this with multiple personality, but our body will do and our mind will do what it needs to protect us from emotions that it feels threatened by. And sometimes they do that, our mind will do that by causing physical symptoms. So you look at the physical symptoms and you don't look at the emotional.
Exactly. Well, sometimes our mind can be kind of our own worst enemy. And a lot of people might be listening to this and thinking, well, my mind doesn't do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, like you've said, and I've listened on your podcast, and really what your mission is too, what I hear from the host that you've interviewed and what you say is it really comes down basically to our mindset, our decision, what we want to do. No one's going to walk this walk for us. And yes, our mind, can allow us to achieve a ton, but oftentimes it can it can hamper us as well, or get in our way. So even a lot of our success, whether it's physical or not, really comes from our mindset and really our belief in what we feel we can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if I was in your office and we were talking about this chronic pain that I had from anger or some unresolved emotion, what's the process that you would take me through to help, realize that and overcome that?
Part of it is to give the analogies of what I've learned over the years and continue to learn. The commonality of how this happens. I mean, we see it, throughout the culture, and it doesn't have to be chronic pain. I mean, there's been plenty written about the role of emotions in high blood pressure, diabetes, and what have you. So or stress, let's say. But what's stress? It's emotion. So I try to take a person down that pathway and then hone it particularly with regards to how do we improve your pain? What has been found that may be effective that isn't about maybe an injection in your back or a pain pump or a stimulator? Now, not that those aren't important and not that there aren't real anatomic painful symptoms as well. I mean, if you've got a disc bulging on a nerve that's, pressing there very badly, and you've got foot drop, that's real. I mean, you can't, you're not making that up. And I'm not implying that the pain that people feel by this mechanism is made up. It's just that where it begins is a process that comes from our emotions and our mind rather than the actual point of pain where they feel it. So taking them down that road and then letting them know what the process is. We encourage various meditations. We encourage reading. We really encourage forgiveness and compassion for oneself, that it's okay to have some of these feelings. Maybe if one has been perfectionistic and how tough that has been on them, it's okay to say this has really been tough or hard on me to live my life this way, but without judgment. It's just to say it and let it be there is really, really important, because what people end up doing is, if I say that, that means I'm weak. I'm not supposed to say those things. And, we kind of go to, look, you're a human being. And if it's been hard, let's talk about it. But also, your body is kind of showing you what you need to be doing or not doing. So that's kind of just kind of an overview of how we approach it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And so you talk about your body showing you, what you should and shouldn't be doing. How do you know what your body is telling you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and sometimes you don't, right? Sometimes you're not sure where it's coming from in terms of any of our health conditions. But if you're looking though at any treatment for diabetes, for hypertension, for any of the major chronic illnesses that affect us as a nation and throughout the world, it isn't just about medical treatment or medication. All of them involve stress balance, lifestyle balance, relaxation, taking an assessment of one's life, and are you in balance? Because, I tell people all the insulin in the world isn't going to get your sugar under control if you continue to eat cheesecakes. So behavior can trump even what modern medicine can do. So, but in that, there's the other side. If we're getting treatment, but we're still not getting the results, how much of it is because we're not doing the right thing in total, rather than just relying, say, on medications or traditional Western treatment?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, what I firmly believe is you have to take the holistic approach, that there's so many aspects of it too, besides just the medications and the drugs, but there's, like the emotions, like you're talking about, the psychology behind it, and there's the diet and the nutrition, the exercise, moving your body, and it all goes hand in hand. And if you improve one area, let's say your diet, your fitness, then that's going to improve your psychology as well, because you're going to feel better about yourself.
That's absolutely right. And really, it's how do you begin to feel a little bit better about yourself? There's millions not millions, but there's so many self-help books that are written and diets and all of that. But part of the reason we don't do some of these things or continue is maybe in a part of ourselves we don't either feel we deserve it, or we don't believe that we can accomplish it, or we think it's too hard. And, letting people realize that, one, that's so common, and two, anyone can do it if belief is there. And maybe trying, at least in therapy, to understand why is it that some of these self-defeating thoughts are there. Because once you start to forgive yourself and also feel better about yourself, it doesn't matter what you start doing, you're going to succeed. And it's those barriers maybe that we're not necessarily always aware of that really sometimes fluster even well-meaning people from proper diets and proper lifestyle adjustment.
Absolutely. I really believe a lot of people just don't know what they don't know, and that's why they eat the bad foods and they don't exercise and they feel bad all the time, and they've got these emotional issues going on because they just don't know any better.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. It's just we have to look at, food is one of the most primitive ways that we soothe ourselves. So when a lot of times what I see in therapy, particularly over the last few years with all of the economic downturn, is people lose the feeling of control. So the one part that is there, that is constant, that is soothing, is their food, is their diet. And, it's very, very easy to find soothing food, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy for you. And you get a quick bounce in terms of how you feel, but it doesn't make things better in the long run. So trying to see where the emotions come in, where the self-esteem and the self-identity play in, and also letting people know this is a human issue. It's not because you're a depressed person or that you're crazy or anything like that. We're all in this together, and we just have to realize we're all a part of this, including some of the negative things that we all suffer from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell us about some of your patients that have gotten good results with what you've been teaching them, and what was it that really made the difference for them?
Sure. There was, one of my proudest ones was, and it's still, ongoing, but she's an incredible individual, and I've talked about her on some of the things that I've written on the website, but she is she's really one of the biggest inspirations for everything that I've tried to do beyond my clinical practice, but she is an incredible inspiration to me in clinical practice in terms of what people can accomplish. But she had gone through some very, very, very difficult trauma early on, different types of abuse that would just be horrific to talk about. But she had gotten to the point where she was so terrified of really life in general that she got to the point where she was limiting anything that she took in by mouth because she was terrified that anything invading her body, period, would be a threat. And to see her, just kind of the disparity between an individual who's gone through all that difficulty, but yet she marries. She has children who are successful. She has a very successful marriage. Horrid psychological trauma, and she experiences it over and over daily. But as we went through this process over a period of years, suddenly she's realizing that she's powerful because she's accomplished all of what she's done despite the way that she feels. And as she began to give herself that forgiveness and understanding and belief, all of a sudden, just on its own, I remember the day she brought in yogurt to the session, and she ate it. And yeah, there were some physical feelings, but she ate it. And that's been a couple years ago, and now she's eating, smells don't bother her, and I really believe that it's finally where she said, I get it, that's right, even though I went through hell and I didn't think that I could get through this, I still, right in front of me was my life, and all of that was accomplishment and strength. And to me, that pretty much explains those that I see in therapy, in whatever way. It doesn't have to be that extreme. But these are individuals who struggle. They feel so weak, yet they've got 100-pound, 200-pound weights on their back, and they carve out a life. And people ask me, well, how can you listen to people all day? And I say, I feel more inspired and energetic by the end of the day, because I really see what people are capable of. It's just that sometimes they don't see it or believe it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's awesome. And it is inspiring to hear people who have overcome those challenges. And what I think two of the things that really stand out for me about that story that's so awesome is that, first of all, she kind of acknowledged herself for the success that she has had in her life, which I think is so important. So many people don't do. They don't acknowledge themselves for the success that they've already had. And the other thing is that she acknowledged, the bad parts in her life, the challenges in her life, the things that were hurtful in her life as well. And I think you've got to do both. Life is ups and downs, and you've got to accept the both as they come and learn from them. And a lot of times people who have a cancer diagnosis, for example, they'll find that's the best thing that ever happened to them because it was a turning point in their life, and they enjoy life more, and they're healthier than ever. And I think that's really important to understand that.
Oh, I think it's key, and that's where, to me, I believe that strength comes from not, it's easy to do well when things are going well, but the measure of who we truly are is how we face our adversity, and it's there where we gain our strength and understand how much we're capable of. And I try and share that with the individuals that I see, because even though they've got their struggles, they still are succeeding in meaningful relationships, meaningful careers, and meaningful health. It's really it's an honor to see these folks regularly.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. I have to say, too, with this individual, all of this was accomplished without 1 milligram of pharmaceutical. So there were no medications this entire time. This was simply what she could do on her own through some of the sessions that we had. But as I tell her, look, you see me for an hour a month. That's 12 hours a year. What am I doing? You're the one who is doing that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You're kind of like the coach and the mentor, but it's the person, it's the individual. It's up to them. It's their responsibility to do the work, to get healthier and to get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So tell us more about you and how people can find out more about you.
Sure. As I said, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, but I had started my website at thehealthymind.com, and I also do a podcast there. Probably the easiest way is to visit the website, and there are there's contact information there. I try to do health articles a few times a week and kind of put it in a digest form with my podcast at the end of the week. Try to get it out every Tuesday for whatever reason. It's Tuesday that seems to be the day that I put the podcast on iTunes. But that's probably the easiest way to, and if people are interested in any of the information, I'm happy to just kind of be a guidepost to say, here's where you should look or there. You don't necessarily need to come solely to me. There are just wonderful, wonderful people out there who are changing lives dramatically with health, and if I can help guide someone in that way, then I've accomplished something.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Peter, I really want to acknowledge you for being just kind of a pioneer in your field, because it's so rare to find a psychiatrist like you who's so progressive thinking and saying that, hey, let's hold off on the drugs for now, and let's talk about what's really going on here and see if we can deal with this a natural way. And I really appreciate that.
Sure. I don't mean to disparage the medications, but for someone to think that a medication in and of itself, without any further adjustment, it doesn't matter what medical problem it is, but let's keep it to psychiatry and what I do. If you're not making the changes in total in your life, medication may help you, but you're not going to get the results that you hope necessarily. Now, there's been some people that it's been a biological issue, and people who have done the right things and have been in therapy, yet the medication was the part that really tipped the balance. But in that, we have to recognize these medications are a part. They should never be seen as the whole. The biggest responsibility and the biggest reason people get healthy is because they take control of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's just an awesome message, Peter. And
Sure.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
No, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Hey there, it's Tom Corson-Knowles again. Hope you enjoyed the show today and took some great notes, and hope you'll apply what you learned today. And we want to thank you again for listening to the show and being a subscriber to the show on iTunes. So we have Dr. Corson's top 5 nutrition tips report for you for free at AuthenticHealthCoach.com. So we'll see you there, and we want to welcome you to the community and wishing you an absolutely incredible day. Take care.